Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
It's funny how a single laugh can sound different when you know it's about you. I stood in the hallway that night, drink in hand, half tipsy, half exhausted from pretending to enjoy myself at a party I hadn't even wanted to attend. My wife, Callie, had insisted we go, said her friends missed us. But really, they missed her. I was just the husband, her accessory. We had just stepped into our 8th year of marriage. The comfort years, I used to call them. We had our routines, our inside jokes, our low-stakes arguments over who left the kitchen light on or whose turn it was to fold laundry. It wasn't glamorous, but it was solid. Or at least I thought so. That night, it was some rooftop bar, one of those overpriced venues where everything feels too curated, like the wine bottles were selected more for their labels than their taste. I didn't fit in there. I never really fit into her world, not since she changed careers and started orbiting a new social circle. I had stepped away from the group to take a call from my brother. Just a quick check-in. By the time I returned, I paused in the hallway just short of the corner that led to the private lounge area where the group was gathered. That's when I heard it. "You know what he reminds me of?" Callie said through laughter. "A golden retriever. Loyal, sweet, and absolutely clueless." The room erupted in laughter, those sharp, feminine bursts that always sound just a little mean. "Stop," her friend Jasmine gasped between giggles. "That's so messed up." Callie kept going. "I'm serious. He still thinks that wearing that gray button-down shirt makes him look dapper. Like, sweetie, you wore that on our first date. You're not 26 anymore. You're my husband, not a college boyfriend. Upgrade your wardrobe or go extinct." More laughter. Someone added something about dad's shoes, and another woman, Callie's co-worker I'd never liked, chimed in about how I still say let's Netflix and chill like it's a thing. They were laughing at me. Not with me. Not around me. At me. I stood there, frozen. One step back, and they'd see me. One step forward, and I'd be right in the middle of it. So I stayed still. Quiet. And I listened. I've had my ego bruised before. Everyone has. But this wasn't that. This was something colder. Something lonelier. There's something about hearing the person you love mock you to her friends that doesn't just hurt. It rearranges your insides. I wasn't angry. Not yet. Just stunned. It went on for a while. More jabs at my predictability, my comfort zone, even the way I still ordered plain black coffee instead of some oat milk foam concoction. Apparently that made me adorably beige. And the worst part? The affection in her tone. Like she didn't even realize she was shredding me to pieces. Like this was all just harmless fun. Eventually someone called out that they needed another round of drinks, and the group disbanded. I slipped back to the bathroom and splashed water on my face like I was trying to rinse off something I couldn't name. When I returned, she smiled at me like nothing had happened. Reached out, touched my arm. "Everything okay?" I nodded. "Fine." But something inside me had gone quiet. That night, I lay beside her in bed, staring at the ceiling. Her breathing steady, back turned to me. She always said I was too sensitive, that I take everything so literally. Maybe I was. Maybe being a decent man had turned me into a boring man. Or maybe I'd just been so focused on providing a safe, steady life that I hadn't noticed when being safe and steady became something to mock. But from that night on, I started noticing everything. Every backhanded compliment. Every time she rolled her eyes when I spoke. Every time she exaggerated my quirks for a laugh. Every friend who joined in like it was a sport. And every time, I said nothing. And she had no idea what that man was going to look like. It didn't happen all at once. That's the lie we tell ourselves when things fall apart. That there was some dramatic turning point, some unmistakable explosion we just couldn't come back from. But the truth is, most endings don't happen in fire. They happen in silence. After that party, I came home different. Not visibly. I still kissed her cheek when she left for work. Still made coffee for two. Still folded her laundry and placed it neatly on the edge of the bed. But something inside me, something vital, had shut off. The thing about being mocked is that it doesn't bruise the outside. It doesn't leave cuts or scars. It just sits inside you like a slow poison, changing the taste of everything. Her words, her laughter with her friends, it didn't just make me feel small. It made me feel unnecessary, like a placeholder in my own life. I started noticing things I hadn't before. Or maybe I had, and just chose not to look closely. The way Callie didn't really talk to me anymore. Just relayed information, as if I were a colleague. "Dinner's in the fridge. I need the car Tuesday. We're out of paper towels." Logistics. Nothing more. When I tried to steer the conversation into emotional waters, she'd push back to shore. Not now. I'm tired. God, you're so intense lately. And I'd retreat, quietly. Because arguing felt pointless. Because I was tired, too. There was this night. I remember it with almost uncomfortable clarity, where I came home late from work. My team had pulled a long shift, and all I wanted was to walk into a warm kitchen, maybe share a meal, hear about her day. But when I stepped inside, the lights were off. The apartment was dead quiet. Just a cold container of Thai takeout on the counter with a sticky note that said, "Ate already." That was it. "No, missed you." "No, how was your day?" Just 3 words on a post-it note, and the faint smell of lemongrass. I ate alone. I cleaned up alone. I sat in the dark and stared at the place where her wedding photo used to sit on the bookshelf. She'd replaced it with some abstract art print she found on Etsy. Said it felt more grown up. I stopped trying to talk to her about anything real. Not because I didn't want to, but because I knew she wasn't listening. Her replies were filters, auto-generated lines that didn't invite further discussion. She asked nothing in return. I became just a man in the room. Not a husband. Not a partner. Just there. Her friends didn't help. Every time they came over, I was the butt of some new joke. "Dan still watching those boring car restoration shows? Let me guess. You spent your weekend organizing the garage again? God, you're lucky he doesn't have the energy to cheat. Mine practically has a second life." They'd laugh. She'd laugh. I'd pretend not to hear. One day, I opened her laptop to check the Amazon order history. I wasn't snooping. I just wanted to see if the standing desk I ordered had shipped. But a chat window was open, Facebook Messenger. Her and Mia. A running dialogue of snide comments and gifs, all revolving around me. She had sent a meme of a caveman dragging a woman by her hair. Caption: Dan's idea of romance. Mia replied with, "Maybe you should drag him to therapy." Callie: "Therapy wouldn't help. He thinks being nice is enough." I stared at the screen for 10 minutes. I didn't feel rage. Just emptiness. I closed the laptop, walked into the bathroom, and stared at myself in the mirror. Who was I becoming? I started changing after that. Nothing dramatic at first. I canceled our joint Netflix account and made my own. I reactivated an old gym membership. I started going out alone. Just walks. Parks. Libraries. Anywhere that didn't smell like her perfume or echo with her voice. I stopped telling her where I was going. She didn't ask. Didn't notice. When I moved into the guest room, she didn't even blink. No questions. No objections. She just started using the extra closet space. And the truth? I didn't miss her. I miss what we used to be. I miss the way she used to look at me like I was her world. I miss the version of her that reached for my hand under restaurant tables, that wore my hoodies to bed, that sent me stupid memes at work with captions like "This is so us." That version of her was gone. And so I let her go. But I didn't make a scene. Because I wasn't trying to save the marriage anymore. It was supposed to be a simple dinner. Just a few people from Callie's office, nothing fancy, she said. I didn't want to go, and for once, I almost said so. But something in her voice made me stop. Not kindness. Not warmth. Just irritation. Like she didn't have the energy to argue, and I was already an inconvenience. So I went. Put on that same gray button-down she loved once. The one she called adorably outdated behind my back. I looked in the mirror before we left, took a breath, and reminded myself that I wasn't going for her. I was going to see it through, to confirm what I already knew. It was at a trendy downtown bistro, the kind with dim lighting and a waitstaff that made you feel like asking for ketchup was a crime. Her coworkers were already halfway through cocktails when we arrived. They greeted her like she was a celebrity, then gave me that same polite, distant nod I'd grown used to. Dinner started fine enough. Small talk, work stories, a few laughs I didn't join in on. I just listened. I had become very good at listening. Then the conversation shifted. One of her friends, a guy from marketing, smug and overdressed, asked Callie how she put up with such a traditional man. I turned my head slightly. "Oh God," she groaned with a laugh. "Don't even get me started." Dan still thinks date night means frozen pizza and a rewatch of Back to the Future. Laughter. Someone said, "At least he's consistent." She wasn't done. He once planned an entire weekend trip to a cabin and forgot to book the actual cabin. We slept in the car, and he said it was spontaneous. More laughter. I felt the warmth rising in my face, but I didn't move, didn't flinch. Just watched her. Her smile. Her eyes flicking across the table, feeding off the energy. It was her stage, and I was the cheap punchline. She leaned in, glass of wine in hand. But really, it's cute. He's like a Labrador. Loyal, low maintenance, zero idea what to do with a woman past 9 p.m. That one hit harder than the rest. Not because of what she said, but because she said it like it was harmless. Like it wasn't the single most emasculating sentence I'd ever heard someone say about their own spouse. In public. They laughed. I stood up quietly, straightened my sleeves. Her voice trailed. Dan. I looked at her. She had no idea who I was anymore. No clue what I'd been doing in the background of our failing marriage. How I'd rebuilt myself piece by piece, physically, emotionally, financially. She didn't see it, because she wasn't looking. I'm going home, I said calmly. You enjoy the spotlight. There was a flicker of confusion in her eyes. Embarrassment, maybe. She tried to smile, to soften it. Don't be so sensitive, babe. We're just joking. I leaned down slightly so only she could hear. You've been joking for months, Callie. The only problem is, I stopped laughing a long time ago. And then I left. I walked out of that restaurant, into the cool night air, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. When I got home, I didn't drink. I opened my laptop. Divorce attorneys. File initiations. Property division. I was done. The next morning, she walked in like nothing had happened. Set her purse on the table. Kissed the air near my cheek. Rough night? She asked casually. I slid the manila envelope across the table. Her eyes flicked to the label. Petition for dissolution of marriage. She blinked once. Twice. You're kidding. No. Her mouth opened to protest, but I stopped her with one sentence. You can keep the spotlight, Callie. I'm taking back everything else. She didn't say anything. Just stared at the papers like they were written in a language she couldn't understand. She had spent so long turning me into a caricature of the man I used to be, she forgot I was capable of becoming someone else. And now, she was the one sitting in silence. You'd be surprised how quiet life becomes after you remove the wrong voice from it. In the beginning, after I moved out, I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel free. I just felt empty. Like someone had taken a vacuum to the center of my chest and left me to figure out how to breathe without it. For all her mockery, for all the ways she chipped away at me, she'd still been my wife. There's a strange grief that comes with losing someone who's still alive. But the thing about grief is it doesn't stay still. If you let it move through you, it eventually morphs into something else. For me, it turned into resolve. I started small. I got a new apartment, not flashy, just clean and mine. I painted the walls a deep forest green because I liked how calm it felt. Bought furniture that didn't match anything we'd ever owned together. Donated every single plate and mug we'd picked out as a couple. I joined a gym 3 blocks from my new place. Not one of those meathead factories, but a real training facility with an actual coach who pushed me harder than I thought I could go. The first few weeks hurt like hell. Muscles I hadn't felt in years screamed at me every morning. But after a while, the pain started to feel productive, honest. Like it was proof I was no longer standing still. I hired a financial advisor, too. Turns out, I was better off than I thought. Callie had always controlled the budget, her way of keeping score. Without her, my income seemed to stretch further. My savings started to grow. I even applied for a leadership course I'd once dismissed as a waste of time. I didn't just take it. I excelled. And then one day, months later, I saw myself in the mirror and paused. Broad shoulders. Trim waist. Eyes that didn't look tired anymore. I wasn't the man she left. I had outgrown the version of myself she ridiculed, and I had done it without needing her to see it. But she did see it. The first ripple came through a mutual friend, Emily, one of the few women in her circle who had always been kind to me. She messaged me out of nowhere, casual at first. Said she'd heard I'd gone full glow-up mode and wanted to grab coffee sometime to hear the story. I declined. Politely. I wasn't interested in catching up with anyone who'd once laughed along with my humiliation. 2 weeks later, Mia, the ringleader of Callie's Sarcasm Brigade, followed me on Instagram. No message. Just a like here, a reaction there. Subtle. I ignored it. Then came the party. Not mine. A gallery opening hosted by a coworker. I'd been invited months earlier and hadn't committed. But something told me to go. When I arrived, I saw her instantly. Callie. Standing by the far wall, drink in hand, surrounded by the same clique of friends who once giggled at how predictable I was. Except this time, something was different. They weren't laughing. They were watching. I wore a dark charcoal suit, tailored, sharp. No dad shoes. Just quiet confidence that didn't need approval. Callie's eyes met mine across the room, and for the first time in our history, she looked unsure. Not smug. Not amused. Unsure. I walked past them, nodded politely. And yet I felt the weight of every gaze on my back like a spotlight I no longer needed. She caught up to me 20 minutes later. Dan, she said, cautiously. Her voice was softer than I remembered. Not quite regret, but close. You look different. So do you, I replied. And she did. Same face, same frame, but something in her posture had changed. Like the queen without her crown. Smaller somehow. I didn't expect to see you here. I wasn't sure I'd come, I said truthfully. There was a silence between us, thick, awkward, loaded with all the words we'd never said. I heard about everything, she said. The gym, the new job, the course. Ma'am, I'm glad, she said, and for a second, she sounded almost genuine. I guess I just didn't know you had it in you. That stung, but not in the way it used to. Not because it hurt, but because it confirmed what I'd always feared. She never really saw me. I always had it in me, I said. You just never looked close enough. And with that, I walked away. I don't think I'll ever forget the expression on her face in that moment. The punchline had gotten up, walked away, and become someone she couldn't joke about anymore. Her friends used to laugh at her jokes. But now, no one was laughing. Not even her. Some people chase closure like it's a finish line. I didn't. I let it come when it was ready on its own terms. For me, it arrived on a warm September afternoon. Sunlight soft and gold. One of those days where everything feels still, like the world's holding its breath. It was a wedding. Not mine. A former colleague's. A small outdoor affair by the lake. The kind where everything looks handmade and sincere. I almost didn't go. My RSVP had sat in a drawer for weeks, and I only decided that morning to throw on a suit and show up. I hadn't expected Callie to be there. But when I saw her across the crowd, hair curled, soft pink dress, standing alone near the mimosa table, it didn't shake me. It didn't stop my breath or twist my stomach like it once might have. I just noticed her. The way you notice someone you used to know. She saw me, too. Her eyes flickered with recognition, then something else. She stepped toward me slowly, like testing the floorboards before crossing an old bridge. Dan, she said, voice light, careful. You look great. I smiled politely. Thanks. You too. She paused. I didn't know you'd be here. Didn't know you would either. Silence hung between us. Not hostile. Just full. I saw your post, she said. You're speaking at that leadership summit next month? I nodded. Yeah. Funny where life takes you. I always said you had potential, she added, reaching for something connection, maybe, or credit. You did, I said, evenly. But you also laughed when I tried. Her face fell slightly. I didn't mean to. I know, I interrupted gently. You were surrounded by people who made cruelty sound like comedy. You just joined in. She looked down, adjusted her bracelet. I'm not like that anymore. I hope not. It wasn't bitter, just honest. The ceremony started, drawing guests to their seats. But she lingered, hesitant. Do you ever think we could have made it work? If we'd found each other at a different time? I looked at her, really looked. Not the woman I'd once married. Not the girl with quick wit and a quicker tongue. Just a human being, standing in the sunlight, asking a question far too late. No, I said. Because it wasn't the timing that broke us, Callie. It was the way you treated me when you had me. She blinked. Once. Twice. The weight of that truth landed squarely in her eyes. Take care of yourself, I said quietly. And then I walked away. I took a seat near the back, beside people I barely knew, and watched the couple at the altar, two people standing before their friends, promising kindness. That's the part people overlook when they talk about marriage. They focus on love, attraction, stability. But kindness? That's the glue. Without it, everything else peels off eventually. Callie once said I was too soft. But standing there, I realized something she never did. There's strength in kindness. It's the kind of strength that walks away from humiliation without turning into a monster. The kind that rebuilds in silence. That transforms not for revenge, but for renewal. And for the first time, she wasn't laughing.
Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.